If you're a nonprofit looking to use technology on a budget, open source software can be a big help. At Tech Matters, we develop and advocate for open source tools, but it's important to keep in mind that open source does not mean zero cost. Why is that? One big reason is that modern software doesn't just run on your personal computer anymore. It often runs on the cloud, which means on computer servers owned by some organization somewhere, which they rent out. To understand how open source can be used to further your social impact mission, and how it works on modern cloud infrastructure, let's look at an analogy: making bread. Imagine that Tech Matters comes up with the most famous bread recipe, Omnibread, which will solve global hunger and turn rich omnivores into happy vegetarians. Our commitment is to share the recipe in complete detail with the world, so that anyone in the world can make the same wonderful bread as long as they stick to the highest bread-making standards. So, we put what's called an open license on our recipe. We're also dedicated to long-term research to improve Omnibread, and expect to release new versions of the recipe every year, also for free. We can now distribute 1 million or 1 billion copies of the recipe, and anybody in the world can change it if they want to. For example, you could add cherries to it and call it Super Bread. We encourage innovation. When Omnibread version 1.0 is ready, imagine that Tech Matters then launches an Omnibread program to actually bake the bread. The recipe is free, but baking and distributing 1 million loaves of bread is not. So, we ask donors to pay the cost of distributing bread to people who have less money. We also ask people who do have the money to buy loaves at a higher price. This doesn't just help pay for their loaves, but also for improving the recipe and subsidizing the cost of loaves for the poor. Now, what does this have to do with software? Like the Omnibread recipe, open source software is intangible and freely shareable with anybody. But modern cloud software needs to run on infrastructure. The cloud platform on which that software runs is not free. So whether you're a nonprofit, a company, a government agency, or an individual, you still have to find a way to pay for storage, bandwidth, and computer servers in data centers somewhere. These are like the ingredients for the bread. But like with Omnibread, Tech Matters, and groups like us, can make our cloud platforms much more economical to people who most need it, but can least afford it. That way, everyone can enjoy our software and the cloud services that rely on it.